Peace, everybody. I just wanted to come on here briefly to wish everyone a happy Mental Health Awareness Month. As you may know, May is the time, well, really all year long for me, but May is definitely the time that we try to encourage everyone to take care of their mental health, right? And check in on loved ones who may or may not be struggling. I am very excited to announce that I will be introducing a mini-series called My Brother's Keeper, where I interview Black men on their bouts with mental health. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I wanted to kind of get started this month and introduce it early on. I have an array of guests from all different backgrounds, all different ages, and the conversations that have come up have been very insightful for me, and I hope that it'll be very impactful for you as well. We are working to really break the stigma when it comes to mental health. I mean, the amount of people that are struggling individually, collectively, I couldn't count, right? And with all that is going on in the world, in our individual lives, within our families, our communities, it really is critical for us to be more of a community, more of a support to the people around us. But of course, it starts with self. So really checking in with yourself to see, how are you doing, right? 9 times out of 10, if somebody asks you how you're doing, how you're feeling, you're going to say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, right? But I encourage and challenge everyone to be honest. Maybe you don't have to be honest with the person who's asking you, but be honest with yourself, right? How am I really feeling? What's really coming up for me? What's really going on with me? Am I stressed? Am I anxious? Am I more tired than usual? And really take a moment to see, what is it that I need at this exact moment in time, right? Because you might be at work, you might not be able to go on a weekend vacation. You might not have enough PTO, right? Like, being realistic. So what can I give myself in this moment that might help me to feel a little bit better than I'm currently feeling? So again, starting that conversation with yourself and then opening it up to the loved ones around you. One of the individuals that I interviewed, he didn't feel comfortable being on camera, but he shared with me a moment in his life where he was contemplating suicide. And what he said was, it's not that I really wanted to kill myself, but I questioned whether or not God wanted me to do it. And that, it really hit me in the heart and the chest, because how many other people are wrestling with that question, right? Many of us don't want to die. Our nature is to preserve our lives, to keep on living, no matter what we may have gone through or are going through. But if you question whether God or even people around you don't feel that your life is worth it and want you to commit suicide, what does that do to the psyche? What does that do to your heart, your spirit, right? How can I move through life if I feel like I'm not wanted or I'm not worthy to even be here, right? So that question, or that story rather, was so heavy for me. And even though this individual didn't want to be recorded, I respect that, 100% respect it, and appreciate him for even having the conversation with me. But it sparked a lot in me. And so these are the kind of conversations that we may not want to have, but are very critical to have with ourselves and with our loved ones, right? You really don't know what somebody might be struggling with. And not that it's your job to save everyone, right? But you don't know what kind of impact you could have just by asking, hey, I feel like, something's going on with you. Like, what's going on, right? And so I pray that this mini series is helpful to someone in some way, shape, or form. I hope that it encourages you to start the conversation. Now, some people wonder, like, how do I even have a conversation like that, right? Me and this person, we don't get deep like that. We don't talk about those things, and I'd rather not bring it up because I don't want to give them any ideas. research shows that if you talk about suicide, it's not going to implant that idea into someone's mind if they didn't already have the intention to do so. So it's better that you check in and see and maybe prevent it than not having the conversation at all. How do you start? Just start. There's no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong way, right? You know the person, you know their temperament, you know their personality, you know what may sit well with them and what may not. And timing too, right? You want to, of course, make sure it's the right time to kind of have that kind of conversation. And not that every conversation is going to be that deep or that heavy, right? It could just be that I'm stressed about school. I'm stressed because I got these bills that need to be paid, right? So just starting the conversation can be so helpful and so impactful. And we really have to have these kinds of conversations more often, because I find too many people struggling. And not that we're not going to struggle, right? That's life. You're going to struggle. But what I have found are the three main causes of some form of distress. Number one, the person doesn't know who they are. And when I say they don't know who they are, I mean really like the essence of who they are. If I ask you, hey, who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. 9 times out of 10, you're giving me your name, maybe your age, where you're from, your occupation, right? My name's Nafisah. I'm from Jersey, and I'm a mental health therapist. But that's not who I am. That's what I do, right? I help people with their mental health. That's not who I am. Who am I? That's a heavy loaded question, and I think it takes people a long time to really discover that. But to have some idea of an identity beyond the constructs that, society places on us. Who am I? The second thing that people tend to struggle with, at least from the people that I've worked with, is they don't know what their purpose is in life. What am I doing here? I feel like I'm just working just to get a check, just to pay a bill, right? And so when you don't know what you're put on earth to do, it can cause a lot of internal conflict. And it also impacts the question of who am I? If I'm not doing anything maybe that I feel is productive, right? So people tend to struggle with those two things. And then the third one, of course, is trauma. Who hasn't experienced trauma? We've all experienced trauma in some way, shape, or form, whether it's as individuals or collectively. But a lot of times, trauma, whether directly experienced or indirectly experienced, causes such a huge impact on our minds and on our bodies that we don't even realize. Sometimes it's not something maybe that we've gone through, but maybe our parents have gone through, right? Generational trauma is real. It impacts us on a chemical and biological level, and we don't always realize that, but that's why it's so important to do this inner work to discover, okay, what am I struggling with that's mine? And what isn't mine to carry? What can I let go of and move on from? Right? Not that it's going to be that easy or that straightforward or that simple, but these are the types of conversations and the type of inner work that we have to do. What am I feeding myself? Because we know that food is going to impact your mental health, your physical health, right? Am I eating fruits and vegetables? Right? It sounds cliche, but you can tell how your body and your mind and your spirit feels when you've ate a good quality meal versus some garbage. You're going to feel differently. And we kind of brush it off because we care about what tastes good, myself included sometimes, right? Like being real. But it impacts us. Are we staying hydrated? Simple things that we kind of dismiss or take for granted that can really change our mood. What am I feeding myself mentally? What am I listening to? What am I watching? A lot of times we're watching and listening to foolishness, right? And you might have your occasional foolishness, but what are you balancing that out with to make sure that you're in a good headspace, right? What am I listening to? What am I feeding myself? What am I reading, if I'm reading at all, right? Am I constantly feeding on the news, which can be depressing? Not that I'm not saying don't stay informed, of course. Stay informed, right? There's so much going on. We have to stay informed, but balance. What does that balance look like for you? So happy Mental Health Awareness Month. But this is a year-long thing. This is an everyday thing. So take care of yourself. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. All right.